Some listener emails on episode 443 of the Actual Astronomy Podcast. I'm Chris, and joining me is Shane. We are amateur astronomers who love looking up at the night sky, and this podcast is for everybody who enjoys going under the stars. So I'm in the final stages of calendaring here. It's sort of taking up a lot of my brain cycle, sadly.
The annual RASC calendar of observing, I don't know, dates and events, I guess.
Man,
So when is it officially done?
I feel like it's never done. I
Okay.
feel like it's never done. It should go to press here sometime in August. Um, but I like to get it all wrapped up as far as the data and the images and all that kind of stuff goes by the end of the month. But this year, I had my friend, actually met her through the show because we had her on from the KW Center, not this Feb, but the previous Feb, is Marie Noonan, and she came in. She's a very good observer. And there was several things that I wanted to do with the calendar that I just was never getting around to doing because I'd spend all my time just working on the calendar, putting it together, and I never have time to do like extra stuff.
Right.
So we had a couple of conversations about some of this extra stuff, and she came up with a whole pile of different interesting things, like, for example, variable stars and carbon stars. So she picked out some of the best variable stars that are visible in 2025 and best carbon stars and like when they're going to be at their peak or when they're best placed. Same with some periodic comets. She came up with 7 or 8 periodic comets that will be brighter than, say, 11th magnitude kind of thing. And then one thing she did, she's a bit of a lunar person. This one she worked with Alistair on is come up with a bunch of lunar libration features.
Oh, really?
And there's stuff on there. Here, let me go grab one. I had never even heard of most of this stuff before. The endymion rays,
Never heard of that.
Wargentin pancake.
Okay. Okay.
What else is on there? Jeweled handle,
Okay.
Alphonsus SR. Must be a sunrise ray. I'm going to update that here right now. Yeah, I don't know what that is. But well, I know what a ray is because like we see those rays emanating from the craters. So that's when these ones are best visible. Eye of Clavius feature.
Hmm.
The first one, though, I think, or one of the first ones, was the Mare Orientale, which I know is on the right side of the moon when you're looking at it, I think. I've looked at that one before, and the Maginus Ray feature. Anyway, so she figured out what nights those are visible, and they're visible on more than one night, but it's like you only have like two, four, five, like maybe half a dozen times a year, like spread throughout the year when these features are well placed, visible, blah, blah, blah. Like for us here in North America. And anyway, it's sort of a pain to kind of calculate that stuff. But she went through and did the calculation, and then we have the dates, so we're going to stick them in the calendar. It's pretty
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Cleomenes sunset rays. And then she did a whole pile of carbon stars when they're at their best. And then one of the things I wanted to do, and her and I chatted about, is we come up with a list, and this is a very rough list. I'm going to put it in anyway, um, of targets that are very low and the nights at which they culminate, sort of, and are at their best during like new moon periods.
Okay.
So, for example, if you think of something like M93, okay, down in Canis Major, not necessarily a difficult target to get, but you want to get it when it's near the meridian, when it's culminating at its highest point.
Mhm.
So then she calculated that the best, for whatever reason, I'm not sure what her criteria was exactly, but I'm just going to go with it, be like March 13th. That's like your prime M93 night. And then there's other things like NGC 1851. I think it's a globular cluster down in Columba the Dove on Feb 3rd. What else is on here? There's some interesting stuff. If you can find a spot where you can see NGC 6231, August or June 25th is your night. Things like, well, like M6, M7 kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
And so, like July 6th would be your best night, and July 7th for M7. Things like M68, like it's pretty low. So all this stuff is very, very low. Even put in like super extreme targets like Centaurus A. Some people buy the calendar down the States as well, but there's a couple spots where there's like one night in Canada where you can see it from wherever it is. But she went through and determined like that was like the 6th of March. That's like a pretty good one. All
That's
kinds of
nice
stuff like
information to
this.
have anyway,
Yeah.
just
How
to
many?
better organize some sessions.
Yeah. Yeah. Just interesting stuff. So like, because often like I might not spend all night looking in the dirt, but certainly it's fun just to kind of see, okay, like how far south can I see tonight? So we got I think 35 objects like this. We call it like I think we're calling it like the sky grazers list, like basically
Okay.
because you're looking through the blades of grass or whatever.
Yeah.
So we end up with 35 targets, of which I think you'd have to be very, very far south in Canada, particularly like in southern Ontario or like Yarmouth County or something in Nova Scotia to get them all. But it's not really like a list for anybody necessarily to complete. But I mean, it could even be something people may wish to do since they're so far down. But yeah, that's just sort of one of the things that we were working on for a bit of a project, something interesting, simply because like you go out and then you're trying to plan your session, and or sometimes here's sort of the one of the practical use cases is you end up with a clear night, and then you're like, man, what am I going to look at tonight? You know what I mean? And it's nice, it's clear, it's warm, like we're having all the smoke, but suddenly, Shane, the smoke clears out here during the next new moon, and you're like, I'm going to go somewhere dark, or you're heading to grasslands. You're like, okay, like what's one neat thing that I haven't seen before? And that would probably have something on that list to sort of pique your interest.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
Uh, to the emails, we had an
Hmm.
email from Bruce. Bruce wrote about Sky Safari. Bruce says, "Hi guys, I noticed in episode 420 that one of Sky Safari's best features wasn't mentioned in relation to an accurate field of view for those that struggle with software under the night sky. It's easy to define your eyepiece field of views in Sky Safari. Now, he's talking about Sky Safari 7. He says you go to Observe, Scope Display, and then create your field of view. And you can also turn on crosshairs and Telrad. And he said, I've defined my main eyepiece and use the feature all the time with my scope. It's reliable and really helpful for figuring out your fields of view. He says, keep up the good work and greetings from Spain. Though in subsequent emails, he said he was born and raised in sort of middle of Ontario. Yeah, but in my Sky Safari 6, which I just downloaded, for me, it's under the menu telescope and then scope display. And that's where I have those fields of view. But it's all good.
Yeah, I think all of the or most of the versions of Sky Safari have that. It's just a matter of finding out where it's located in your version.
Yeah, there's a couple things not as huge a fan of in my version of Sky Safari. So one is um, in this one, and this one seems like it should be an automatic thing, but it's not as clear where the show even when a telescope is not connected. Like
Mm.
I kind of feel like if people are going into this feature, they want it on. So I don't know why that it's way down towards the bottom. And then because I turned them on, I was like, how come I don't see them? And then I had to go kind of mess around to find it. And then the other is the day and time. It's super small.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like not as easy to it's not as easy to read. Maybe there's something with my setup. But that said, small quibbles because I had it running on my Pixel Book before, and then my Pixel Book screen died. So I do like how quick it runs, and it hasn't crashed yet. I've been running it for a few days, and I've been running a lot of stuff through. I just like the way things pop on Sky Safari a little bit more than some of the freeware that I was using. And I can kind of, maybe it's just because I'm used to it, I can kind of set it up to run a little bit faster. I just found that checking stuff using freeware, it was taking me way too long. And I got it on sale. I got it for 17.99 Canadian. So it was a pretty good deal.
Hmm. Yeah, it's my favorite planetarium app. I've been using it for years, and I like how it is very mobile. Like it can basically live on any device you own,
Yeah.
and that's super handy because once you get used to the interface on one, then it's just pretty much the same, from device to device. So I really like it.
Yeah. I bought the, see, I wasn't going to buy the six. So I'm gonna put this through sort of my expense for the calendar because I'm gonna get seven and I'm gonna put it on my device for the observatory. So I
Yeah.
wasn't planning on getting another version, but I needed something to check things. I was having other people do it. And I was just like, oh, this is just too painful. But anyway, somebody wrote you a nice email. Actually, you've got a couple nice emails in here, but somebody wrote you a nice email.
Yeah, I'll go through this one from Nick. So he says, "Hi Shane, I was delighted that you mentioned Thomas S. Kuhn's The Structure of Scientific Revolutions on your site. So this would have been episode 399 when Chris Wilcox was on the show.
Mm,
So Nick goes on to say that made me explore your writings a bit more, and judging from your interests, I think I have something you might enjoy. Allow me to introduce myself quickly. I'm Nick, a 45-year-old German internet entrepreneur,
hmm
not a scientist, but I've always been fascinated by the question, what fosters or hinders progress in science?
hmm.
I've now written down my thoughts about it in a casual and cheerful tone. You can find the results here. And he provides a link. And he said, I'm sure you'll enjoy the book because it delves into making science understandable for non scientists, which aligns with your interests in discussing complex scientific ideas in an accessible way. I also think you like the many anecdotes, thought experiments, analogies, and the dose of humor. Therefore, I thought, why not send you the book for free? You can download it here. So thank you, Nick. Appreciate that. I'd be delighted if you could have a look. If you don't have time right now, it would be great if the book could at least make it on your to read list for your next vacation. Any feedback would be very welcome. Thank you, Shane. So I have not read it yet, but it definitely is on my to read list. Did you happen to have
Yeah.
a look at it, Chris?
No, because when I saw it was directed at you, I didn't read the email until yesterday, and then I was like, oh, that's really cool. Hopefully he'll let us do two downloads because I want to take a look at that as well. I think it's pretty cool, like this whole self-publishing thing, because there's lots of interesting people out there. But yeah, this would be sort of yeah, right up my alley as well. That sounds super cool. Thanks
Yeah,
for
we'll
that,
have to
Nick.
check it out. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Tim sent us an email. Tim's a somewhat frequent, more recent correspondent from St. Louis. Tim says, I just wanted to provide a little clarification on episode 439 and the latest round of emails. I had stated that Chris was, I think I had stated myself, being Chris, that what I was mounting was essentially the weight of his Dob, but he said that he was referring to his 8-inch Dob. The 20-inch Dob would be much heavier into the, I guess, I think he said 80 pounds, but I think it's about right. I think maybe I just misformed my sentences because my mount is about 35 pounds and the scope is about 30 pounds and my accessories are about 10 or so pounds. So that's kind of like 80 pounds. So yeah, I think on the pier itself is what I was referring to. So it is about the same as the 20-inch. Once you factor in all that weight, what is sitting on the pier, mount and telescope, etc., is about the same as his 20-inch telescope he's building. So pretty crazy.
Hmm.
He says the sandwich mirror from Hubble Optics really hopes to save him a lot of backache. And that's all for the day. Thanks for that, Tim. Appreciate it. Always good to hear from you and looking forward to the updates.
Hmm.
All
Yeah, yeah.
right. Do you want to read the one from, P and he says, let's see. Oh, yeah, Peter. Go ahead. Do you want to read Peter?
Sure. Says, hi, Chris and Shane. great move on going to one show per week. I've always
Yay.
been astonished at how you managed to do two shows per week for so long. Also, returning to topics you covered previously could actually be good. Some things don't change much, but there's a lot that does. And I've seen your approach to the hobby evolve some over the years or over the 4 years that I've been listening. Clear skies from Peter. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate the kind words. We weren't
Mhm.
quite sure how the response would be to one episode per week, but so far, Chris, I think it's been pretty solid, pretty positive.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think just because of like going observing, working on other projects, me trying to finish the calendar, you were away, and then I'm going to go away for a couple weekends, then you're going to be away a couple. I think we would have just crashed and burned this summer. I don't think we would have been able to do it. So
Yeah,
that
exactly.
even as is, like it's like, oh, we got to record more shows. But it's more manageable. It's like, okay, we'll do two today, and then that'll take us through until we're both back again, and then we'll do another couple or three or something one day, and it's way more manageable. It just
Yeah,
doesn't feel like yeah. But yeah,
yeah,
yesterday was pretty wild because I think I spent like 15 hours sitting working on calendars, show notes, blah blah blah. So it's still pretty wild for me on my end.
yeah, for sure. I missed the PS here. Peter added, excuse me, I got yet another scope, Mulan 180C. I've been kind of interested in that one actually.
Mm,
I've been captivated by these ever since my friend bought the old model and I read Roger Vine's review on scopereviews.com. Bought it used from Japan via eBay in pretty much mint condition for about one third off the list price. The most beautiful telescope I've ever seen. Almost worth having just for the looks.
mm.
I agree. They're quite a aesthetically pleasing telescope, and like I think the optics are what you would expect from Takahashi, at least from what I've read. It's sounds like a great little telescope. Like it's not little, but the because it's a compound telescope, the focal length, is sort of magically done within the tube, and it's quite portable.
Yeah, that's one that I had my eye on for a long time. Boy, yeah, that Mulan 180 it's about the largest, most portable, like
Mhm.
real dedicated planetary scope. I think it's like F12 or 11 and a half or something in that. At 7 inches. Pretty good size scope. I think it's like 13 or 14 pounds or something, so not too heavy either.
Yeah, yeah. I've been tempted a couple of times. I've only held back just because of the cooling that like the time it takes to cool. And
Mm,
you and I have talked a little bit about that in the past, just how sometimes our nighttime temperatures really dive quickly, and
yeah.
sometimes depending on the design of the telescope may have a hard time keeping up with the cooling air around it, and that's always been my concern with the Mulans, just for our location anyway. Otherwise, I'm sure I would love the scope.
Yeah, I think the Mulan's better than a Schmidt Cassegrain because they are open at the end. They don't have
Yeah,
the
yeah,
correctors in the optical path, so it's just a small, like 2 or 3 inch corrector. It's just like having a large set of optical
hmm,
eyepiece elements basically in the optical path. I forget where that is in the path, but in general, that's going to cool faster. That's why it had
for
my
sure. Yeah,
my attention for sure. But yeah, it just yeah, at one point in time I thought I might try something like that. I think out here that would be probably the best bet as far as a compound scope goes at uh at looking at planets. But even like man, like the refractor, the 4 inch, 5 inch size, and the smaller refractors do work so well under the conditions that we have. Like when we were in the grasslands there last weekend, and Saturn had come up, and we were looking at under other scopes, and it was great. It was really cool to see, but it's not super high. And when we put the refractor on, it's just exquisite in the
hmm,
little Takahashi refractor. Like everybody just, it was kind of funny because it was like about 2 o'clock in the morning. It was about the last thing I looked at. And like everybody just stopped what they were doing just because of like the oohs and the ahs, like in this, in the 4 inch refractor. It
hmm,
just really, really shows those, near edge on rings just slicing through space, and just the view of it, and the atmosphere wasn't totally steady. You could see it wobbling a little bit, but the view was just spectacular. So it is kind of hard to beat that. So
Yeah.
that's why I haven't gone with the Mulan.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah, Royce sent an email. It was directed at you because you had written Royce about your pencil holder, and Royce
Yeah.
goes on to say, Shane, so glad you found a use for the pencil holder. I've got these glued to my desk at work for quick sketching and notes too. Just a little backstory. These wire pencil holders are of a traditional design that many 2D animators used on their desk in the early 20th century. They were often made by the animators themselves by thumbtacking or screwing springs directly onto their drafting tables. Later, they began to mass produce them with a wood or metal base, and he sent us an early version of that. I have one that Royce had originally recommended, which is out of plastic, which I was a little bit disappointed in. It works okay, but definitely the wooden one that Royce sent is like, I mean, ooh, it's like the Ferrari of pencil holders. Royce goes on to say, referring to another animator, he's the guy who animated most of the first Mickey Mouse cartoons back in the 20s and 30s. But where is it? Somehow I'm missing it. I think it's in the link. Or oh, the guy's name is Oob Iwerks.
Okay.
And then there was a commercially made one by Ken Harris, one of the best known illustrators, the Bugs Bunny animators. I went through and looked at all these when I saw this email. It's pretty cool. I also want to say I think it's great that you two are adjusting the actual astronomy release schedules to accommodate a post-pandemic lifestyle. One show a week and focusing on a single quality show sounds fantastic. Don't get me wrong, I love getting as much actual astronomy as I can, but I also appreciate that you're exploring healthy life balances. Thank you all for all you do in keeping the show going. Yeah, no, appreciate that, Royce. Yeah, it's great. I feel bad because I kind of have not been responding to as many emails or as quickly. I think I still owe Royce an email. It's just been, for me, like I said yesterday, it was like a 15-hour day of working on calendar and writing podcast notes and stuff. So I'm just tapped, but hopefully by the time August rolls around, things will be better. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get this all done and wrapped up just so it's not constantly hounding me. Because every time I sit down, instead of doing other things, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to work on the calendar. And then I end up procrastinating and not working on the calendar for like an hour and then doing an hour of calendar work and then getting frustrated and getting up and walking away from my computer. Roy sent some really cool images, though, Shane,
Yeah, he
of
did.
his
They're beautiful.
sketch of M8. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, great observation and just a great sketch. Just how he captures sort of the bright areas and then like different, really just like the extent of it and,
Mm,
the brighter patches and darker patches and individual stars. Like it's beautiful. And the fact that it's white on black just really takes you there. It's like you're
mm.
looking at it yourself.
Yeah, I really, really like these observations. He's using a 10-inch f4.7, which, in my opinion, those sort of quote unquote mass produced 10-inch f7s or f4.7s, those are the best mass produced scopes that I've ever looked through. Like I've looked through so many of those, and I don't know what it is. My theory was that they must have just designed all the mirror grinding stuff to work best with those mirrors because those 10-inch f7 Dobbs, those are really, really awesome. Like we've looked through a pile of my friends and I over the years. I've probably looked through, oh, man, it's got to be close to 100. And they are awesome. I've even thought about just getting one just because they're just by out of the box scopes, they're about the best ones. Peter, that comes down to the grasslands with us, he's got one too. Every time I look through that, I'm just like, man, it's good. We can see more through the 12, but it just seems like it's just so good as far as a 10-inch scope goes for, I think you can find them for under $1,000 used or whatever. It's just a great deal.
Yeah,
One of the
for
things I
sure.
like about Royce's sketches, sorry about that, is that they're really well done, but he's not using anything crazy as far as equipment or eyepieces go. Like 10-inch f 4.7 Dob, that's just pretty standard. I think that's almost like the standard issue Dob if you go out observing with a pile of people. It almost seems like somebody has one. I know two people that come observing with me, they have those. And they're, like I said, they're great. I've known tons of people that had them over the years, and he's using like 26 millimeter Astrotech Titan eyepiece. Nothing like truly like quote unquote spectacular, but I mean, all the stuff is so good these days. And this one of the Lagoon, standard Plossl, 25 mil UHC filter, but just man, it's so good. It's so good just to look through these just all the good quality equipment that's available these days. And we talk about equipment a lot on the show, but man, just like the standard stuff. I even bought that 32 mil Plossl there a couple of years ago. I've got that sitting on my shelf right here, and it's awesome. Just what you can get for not a whole lot of money these days. The other thing Royce did was he sketched out the T Corona Borealis star that is supposed to go nova. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. That is cool. Neat record.
Yeah.
Assuming it does go nova here.
Yeah. And then spotted Pallas, the minor planet, but I don't see a sketch where I don't think Pallas is in this. But anyway, maybe I just missed that. Yeah, he goes on to say that he sketched T Corona Borealis, spending some time with CRB every night out. Hope is that he'll become familiar enough with the pattern that he'll recognize it instantly. I know where it is. If that goes nova, I'm going to see it. On the left side of the page is a Lagoon Nebula sketch from his back deck in Oakland using a UHC filter, and he says, I was mesmerized at how much swirling cloud patterns were visible. Man, I can't believe what he's pulling out in like an urban backyard. I've been to Oakland. It is not a dark sky preserve.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Cool. Thanks for that, Royce. Really appreciate it. Anything to add to this show, Shane?
No, that is all, Chris.
Well, everybody, thanks for listening. Please subscribe and share the show with other stargazers you know. Send us your show ideas, observations, and questions to actualastronomy@gmail.com.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the show. If you are interested in more information, would like to contact us, or if you would like to support the podcast, check out our website, actualastronomy.com.